And we're live. Welcome, everybody, to this Blockchain Game Alliance live talk. Hi.
Hello. Hello.
Welcome. We've got Joe, Zach, Bartasian, and Bea. Welcome, everybody. So today we will be discussing collecting NFTs for investment or sentiment value. But before we do that, I just will give you a short introduction about the Blockchain Game Alliance. So I'll be sharing my screen now and tell you a few words about the work that we do at the Blockchain Game Alliance. Can you all see my screen?
Yep.
Just check. Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, so the Blockchain Game Alliance is an organization committed to promoting blockchain within the game industry. Our goal is to spread awareness about blockchain technologies and encourage adoption by highlighting their potential to foster new ways to create, publish, play, and build strong communities around games. We also strongly advocate for diversity and inclusivity of women in the industry. The BGA also provides an open forum for individuals and companies to share knowledge, collaborate, create common standards, establish best practice, and network. And this is what the BGA are in a nutshell, all the activities that we do. As you know, we focus a lot around networking, research, and reporting. We represent blockchain games company and advocate for blockchain in the game industry. As part of our core activities. As you can see on this page, we have over 150 members already. I think we've grown, we're probably even more than that, I lost count. But as you can see, there's plenty of logos on this page and it keeps growing. So it's very great to see how many companies are actually involved in blockchain and games. We want to give a good thank you to our sponsors that make all these events possible. So thank you all to all these brands and companies that you see on this page for sponsoring these events. These are some of the latest interviews with industry leaders and video games executives that we had. You can find all of these recordings available on our channels through Medium posts and YouTube videos. We also had a series of workshops on thematic topics like DeFi and other decentralized gaming work groups and free webinars on legal topics around blockchain games. You can also find those on our channels. We have every month new members presentation. So all the members that join us will have an opportunity to introduce that company and that brand on a monthly basis. So make sure you follow the updates. We also provide free speaking opportunities and other conferences. So here are some of the highlights we had during the year. And then we care a lot about bringing an inclusive environment into the space. So these are a series of women panels we had over summer. So you can check those out. These are also available around our channels. And these are all the wonderful women that have attended our panels recently. Then we started a collecting NFT series, which is what this panel is also about. So we are continuing the series today, and I am pleased to introduce you shortly to our speakers. But before I do that, make sure to follow us on Twitter, Medium, our website, and Telegram. Wonderful. So without further ado, I wish you all to learn more from Joe. And I'm going to pass on the word to Joe. Nice to have you. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here to talk about rare digital art, NFTs, as things that people either invest in or for sentimental value. It's exciting. Glad to be here.
Do you want to give us a few words about your background yourself? We've got your bio here, but if there's anything else you'd like to share.
Oh, sure. So, yeah, so I started out as a collector many years ago before all this blockchain stuff, and also am an artist. So artist, collector, and also founder in blockchain space of a gallery that does NFTs on the EOS platform. I'm co-founder, not so active anymore in it, but I am just a big fan of making art able to be transferred digitally in ways that's, people can do it all around easily, quickly, and fast. So I have wear a lot of hats.
Great. We'll be looking to hear your views about these topics today. Thank you so much for the intro, Joe. Moving on, we have Bea. Hi, Beatrice. How are you?
Good. How are you? Yes, I'm an artist. I am the creator of data. People speak to each other through drawings, and I think we still have what is considered the largest collection of rare digital art ready to be traded as NFTs in the world, with over 120,000 drawings now created on the platform. So, wow. So we look at it from the point of view of the artist first and most, but also from the point of view of who is going to care for this art. And I myself being an artist since I was a child, and a collector since I was a child, and I collect all kinds of things, and we can talk about it later. I'm also an investor, so it's an interesting conversation to have because I see the two things completely different and separate.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this intro, Bear. We'll be looking forward to talk to you further. And Zach, we welcome Zach from the Super Rare team. How are you?
Doing well. Excited to be here. Hey, everyone. I'm Zach Yanger. I'm the head of marketing and growth at Super Rare, and I also handle the artist relations and onboarding of new artists to the platform, and currently a lot of the community stuff as well. But I've been on the Super Rare team for a little over 2 years now, and so I've been in the space for a while, and it's been really exciting to see everything evolve and change, and I think the future is looking really exciting. So I think this is a great conversation to have. When it comes to investment versus sentiment, I definitely lean both ways when I'm looking at the art that I collect. I've collected a good amount of digital art so far and plan to continue. So excited to have this chat.
Super. Thank you. And then we welcome Bartasian. Hi, nice to meet you. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Hey, guys. Yeah, it's Bartasian or Bartasian. Anyways, yeah. So I'm happy to be here with this panel. I claim like to be a degen because I like buying new NFTs, exploring different kinds of NFTs. I've been trading the NFT market for more than a year now, and I have NFTs across different platforms, not just on Ethereum. And most of my focus is generally towards investment to making a profit out of it, but I also collect along the way. So yeah, I'm excited for this talk.
Thank you so much for being here today. Okay, so it looks like we have a great panel, and I'm looking forward to have this conversation with you. So I put together a number of questions that we can now discuss together, but feel free to have a conversation and to send questions through, and we'll pick them up during the live Q&A. So Bart, we would like to start with you, and I wanted to ask you, what are your motivations when collecting NFTs? I know you briefly said about investment and also collecting along the way, but what does really motivate you when collecting an NFT?
Okay, so I'm not a person who has endless liquidity. So the way I collect is by trading the previous ones I have, and then making a stack of ETH along the way, and then buying more as I like them. So my main focus is always how much I'd be able to make a return out of an asset, because if I don't put that as one of my focal points, I wouldn't be able to collect more NFTs along the way. So one of my main focuses is always how I can see that thing going up in value. Now, this I started off into the NFT world through Neo, actually, on the Neo platform, a thing called Neo Fish. It was a gaming asset. And then I went on to crypto gaming in Ethereum, Crypto Space Commanders. And then I went on to real estate NFTs like Crypto Voxel, Somnium Space, and then recently art. So each of these, I've played each of these sectors and I've flipped a lot of these NFTs along the way, and that's the way I've been able to expand my collection, so to speak. So one of my main
Mhm.
focuses when I collect NFTs is my ability to be able to sell it later on, so that I can collect more NFTs.
That's such an interesting way of thinking about both collecting for making, availability for further assets to be collected in the future, and also be mindful about what you select. Thank you for sharing that. I would love now to focus slightly more onto art as a topic, and I'd like to address the next question to Bea, and asking you, Bea, how do you determine the value of an art asset, and how do you price a work of art? So we're thinking about NFTs in the sense of art on the blockchain, and how do we assess a value when we make a work available as an NFT?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean that question has different sides of it for me. The first thing is that we have to understand that the value of art has nothing to do with price. Price is just a mechanism to trade it, but the value had nothing to do with it, right? So it's completely arbitrary in my eyes. It's whatever the market think, but that's an arbitrary thing. So to me, art is actually, the value of it is actually subjective. And so, somebody may think that a piece of artwork is $10,000 because, if not because of investment, but because it thinks that it's an influencer art piece, because it's of the context, its historical context, and it's able to project that artwork is gonna be very valuable for cultural reasons. So if somebody decides that that's 10,000 or 100,000, I think it's fine. But the reasons why we allocate the value matter to me, I think. And so when it's about a speculation, and it becomes sort of like a Ponzi scheme, in the sense that it's who is going to pay more for the next, who's going to be the next person who's going to pay more, and then you use all these like mechanisms to make believe that the value is it's going up. So I think for me the question is why, always. Not necessarily how much somebody pay, not necessarily what the market or what collectors or what people who understands art think. All of that is relative. It is a subjective value, and I think whoever wants to pay whatever for whatever piece of art, it's valid. And so if somebody's paying, $1,000 for a piece of art that somebody just made a click and something came out, I think it's fine. But I think we have to discuss what does that to the market in terms of the reasons why people collect art.
Mm-hmm. I understand, and it's an interesting point, and I think it leads to the next question that I love to ask to Zach, because we had this conversation a couple of days ago with Bea, and she mentioned to me about Picasso and Matisse constantly trying to copy one another, but also maybe even learning from one another about techniques and about the styles and the design. So as you can see here, it's a sleeping woman from Matisse and from Picasso, and you can see the similarities in these two paintings. So I would love to address this question to you, Zach, asking you, does copyright issue impact on the value of an asset if you wish to purchase or sell an asset? So thinking about art, and given what happened recently, I would say that the past 2-week drama, how would you think copyright issues can impact on the value of an asset?
Yeah, so definitely a hot topic. When it comes to copyright, comparing the Picasso and Matisse, to me, it's different with digital art where things are so easily just copy and pasted. Creating and drawing a version or taking inspiration from an artwork, to me, is a totally different thing than actually copy and pasting another artist's work and selling it as your own. And so when it comes to copyright, of course, the whole industry is still trying to kind of figure out what the best way forward is. There's no, I'm not going to lie, we're still trying to figure out the best way forward for super rare on that front. But I do very much believe that, especially in this digital world where, copying and pasting is so easy to do, that it is very important to protect the artists and creators that are actually creating the original pieces. When it comes to things like copyright, using brand logos and things like that, at the end of the day, right now it's something that, we're not putting on super rare, but I don't see an issue with it. I love remix culture. I've collected remix pieces. I don't see anything wrong with it. But when I am looking at investing in a piece of digital art, I definitely take the authenticity of it and how original the creation is and unique the creation is to heart, and that's a big factor for me when picking out artworks to buy. And so at the end of the day, you mentioned the last couple of weeks drama, and yes, there has been some drama, but it's it's a much bigger story than just copyright. It wasn't just a copyright issue that led to it. It was more a respect within the community issue that we had to make a very tough decision that at the end of the day we really didn't want to make, but we were kind of faced with two bad options, and we took the option that we felt was the best way forward.
Absolutely. Thank you for discussing that. And I think it's an interesting topic to be discussed, not just about the creation aspect, but also in general about NFTs and digital assets in general, because I fear this is not just valid in art. Art is a good example because it's a visual rendering, and so it is easy to make those assumptions. But if we're talking about games as well, that can become a whole different story. So the next question is to Joe. And since we discussed about art and some aspects around the investment with Bartas, and I think I'll be interested to ask you if you believe whether gas, since it's so high these days, it has become the actual NFT curator. What are your thoughts on that?
It certainly has a very powerful influence, and it's definitely slowed down my collecting, both when gas or when the transaction fee got high, both on the counterparty Bitcoin network, because I also a big portion of my collection is on counterparty running on top of Bitcoin. And when maybe about a year and a half ago, I think the fees for the Bitcoin transaction got high, and it just slowed down a lot of things. And the same is happening. This is, I think, the second time around for Ethereum with the gas fees being high. So it's certainly it's like there's sometimes where I'm just like, I don't want to collect because I don't want to collect something new. I don't want to even deal with the unknowns of how high is this gas price going to be. I do think there's an opportunity though because of this. Now, obviously, some people will just build in the price. The artists will just build in the price of gas into that so they can recoup their costs if they're minting it themselves. And then there's some people that will just be like, hey, I still want it. I'm going to buy it. There will be people that will like that, but it will slow down the middle to lower entry, just beginning people, except for the platforms and the blockchains that don't have this issue. So, for example, on the EOS blockchain, where you have the Pixios gallery, it's practically a non-issue. So people are still buying and selling artwork on the Pixios gallery, and this isn't even an issue. In fact, I've seen some collectors come over and some artists come over because they've had issues with running stuff on Ethereum, and I know Ethereum's going to resolve it soon. But this whole concept of that there has to be gas, like that's a human-made restriction. it doesn't have to be like that. We're just copying because in the world there's postage and somebody can make money off it. But this is blockchain, so there's a way to get around it. Right now, the most popular blockchain for doing this and the first blockchain for doing this, they both have it. They still have the Bitcoin transaction and the Ethereum transaction. But my guess is, 5-6 years down the line, we'll be looking at this and be like, oh man, remember when there used to be fees to do this? Like on top of the actual purchase price. It's the early stages. Rare digital art, it's barely 5 years old, so we're still just figuring it out. And I do applaud the people that are trying to find solutions. I think Maker's Place has a plan where the artists, when you issue the art, for years they were just paying the gas fee themselves, which was incredible. And now I think they're coming up with a solution where you can defer actually issuing the NFT to avoid paying the price. So you put it on the market, and then once it sells, then you pay the price. So there's going to be more incredible solutions coming out in the short term, but I think the long term is just have it be either a zero fee or a very low fee, because this is technology. Email's free. You just, nobody's paying for email, and it's all the internet. This can totally be resolved. It's not yet, and we're just going to have to kind of suffer through it if we're going to be on Ethereum. I think there's also Hive. There's a Hive blockchain, which is an offshoot of the Steemit blockchain. They're doing NFTs for no price, or for the transaction gas fee is very low too. So there's a way, but we're just not there yet on Ethereum or Counterparty.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Joe. I went back into these kind of screen because I wanted to see you all. I couldn't see your face earlier, so and I was also here reading on the side all the comments of people watching. There's quite a good amount of people here with us in this virtual room, so thank you everybody. And I would encourage you to ask questions if you do have some for us. So we'll be happy to discuss live. We have actually a couple of questions coming through, so I'll be addressing a few of those, and then we'll go back to the questions I've prepared for these live. There's one coming from Judy to Bart. Is collecting and flipping art any different for you than the other assets you collect? Do you feel any attachment? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so one of the first art NFTs I collected was one by Silvio. And I just bought it because I loved it. The whole message of that, it was like through pen drawings, and it had a beautiful flow to it. And I just really liked the art NFT. When I bought that one, it wasn't for selling. It was because I just liked it. And I don't imagine selling it at any point of time, but I do put it at a certain price value where if it does sell, I can collect more of similar works. So yeah, in a way, for art, you have a certain sense of attachment to it. I also have this with a lot of Josie's pieces, where I know that I can flip it for a very high value, but they are just so beautiful, and it has a lot of, how do you say, history. One of her Hal pieces is just amazing, and I know I can get for a high amount for it, but I'm also conflicted on whether to sell it. So you've got to strike a balance. I wouldn't unless I actually needed the liquidity. Well, for
That's
other
an
assets,
interesting
no second thought.
So
yeah.
Traders have a heart, then. That's what we're learning.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we do.
So yes, actually, do you all think that we can balance the fact that when we look at NFTs, we look at them as a form of investment, but also we do have, a sentiment, feeling, and sort of attachment to what we see, and we also collect them for that reason. What are your thoughts in general on that? What captures your attention at first when you decide to buy something on chain?
I let everyone, because I have a lot to say about that, but I let Joe and Zach answer, and then.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. So, as I mentioned before, when it comes to collecting digital art, for me, I really look at it from both perspectives. I have a number of pieces in my collection that were purchased specifically because of sentimental value. This piece behind me by Hackatow is it's called Little Sister, and I started making my own art on Super Rare 2 years ago in honor of my little sister who passed away back in 2016, and so when I saw this piece come out a couple years ago, I immediately fell in love with it and reached out to Hackatow, and they were nice enough to let me get it early on. And I've been offered by numerous people now that prices that would be record breaking on Super Rare for this piece, but I don't honestly think I'd ever be able to sell it. But I also do very much collect for investment value as well. There's a lot of things that I look at when I'm looking at art. I have, if you look at my collection, I'd say probably 30, 40% of it are sentimental pieces that I don't really have any intention of reselling. And then the rest of them, I would resell if the price was right. I think, when looking at digital artists and art hitting the marketplaces, there's a lot of different ways that I value it. I think that number one, it's super important to only buy things that you love, because in this market, you never know if you're going to be able to resell something. So if you don't love the piece, don't buy it. But beyond that, I think it's important for me to invest in artists that are good at promoting themselves online. We have seen that, whether we like it or not, artists' ability to promote themselves online and grow a following is playing a factor in valuing of artworks right now. And, I think that, especially seeing, young artists like Ferocious that are putting out videos daily about their art and studio tours. I mean, she's 17 years old and doing this. I mean, it's easy to spot the kind of artists that really, you can tell they're serious about this on a long-term view. I think that having a unique style and brand that, when their art hits the marketplace, it's clear that it's theirs. You're not wondering if it's one of 20 different artists that are doing very similar things. They have very unique styles. I also look at, what other collectors and prominent artists have collected artists before. I think that's probably something they may not like as well, but I think when it comes down to it, that the space we're in right now, we are trying to grow a global art market, and I think that part of it right now, as what I'm seeing and what have seen success in, is finding artists and collectors that I respect and that other people respect. And when they become interested in an artist, I take a much harder look at that artist. And if I see something I love, I jump at it. I think, Matthew from Scent put together a really great blog post a few days ago on this topic. And I really agreed with most of the points that he made in that. But, the other big thing, and I know I'm talking a lot, is just getting artists early. I'm a big fan of getting artists, first work, first few works. I think, being one of the first people to support an artist that I see having big potential is another, big thing that I look for when I'm going for investment.
Yeah,
interesting view. Thank you. Yeah, go on, Joe.
No, that's great. I love what everybody's saying. It's right on. I think I remember as a collector many years ago, just as a kid collecting wacky packages in the 70s and Marvel sticker cards and Star Wars cards when they came out. I wasn't investing. It was just for sentimental value. And, many of those things naturally did go up in time. So the safe bet is always, if you're just doing it for sentimental value. I come from now my wife and I, when the kids were in California, but I used to be in Chicago at the Chicagoland Chamber of Commerce. So we've seen markets turn over, do unexpected things time and time again. And then, of course, playing the stock market for many years, thinking you could read the fundamentals and know what's coming next, and just being proved wrong time and time again. Same in crypto. Nobody knows the future but God. So if somebody is doing this for investment, it's if you can flip it quickly, more power to you. But we just don't know the future, so it's hard to say. Like there's even these places that have NFTs where you're buying the land and then people build on it. There's various things like that. Like again, that's like will another platform come out that will eclipse that, and then all that land is just drops. So we're still in such an early phase of this that if people are doing it for a long-term investment, there's so many unknowns. I mean, you're actually, the reality is when you buy an NFT, you're not actually buying the art. You're buying a token that is almost magically linked to an art that is all over the place. It's on the artist's computer. It's on probably some Amazon web server on IPS, and it's also copied on Twitter. It's everywhere. So you're not yes, we say it's rare digital art, but the reality is you're buying a token. And as long as you're okay with that and you understand that, great. And you could, if you want to do it for investment, that's your call. I typically collect more for the sentimental value. Like, hey, this is a cool piece of art and I could use it in this game. Like, this is so cool. Yeah, that's what I want to do. Oh, wow. And if I combine these 4 cards in the Spell Genesis game, wow, then I could blockchainize it. Now it's on the blockchain and I could play it in the game. Or, wow, this is art that somebody gifted me, and I treasure. This is so cool. This is like, hey, let me show you this. I get my phone and just show people. So I think that's where the fun human interaction. The investment side is it's business. It's like you're going to be, if you don't have a sentimental side where you're also getting enjoyment out of this, it's a business and comes with all the pressures, victories, and failures that come with business.
Thank you for expressing that in such a thoughtful way. Thank you. And Bea, yes, I know you have something to show us as well to be talking about.
Sure.
There's
so much to unpack there, though. I mean,
I can tell you guys, there's a good bunch of questions waiting to be answered here on the side. I can see coming through because a lot of people are watching.
So I will give you an overview of it, and then take questions from people, of course. But so I give you first, for me, what blockchain means. The reason I'm working so hard in blockchain is to come up with new ways of experiencing art, collecting art, appreciating art, and making art, creating art. So when I see that we repeat the same behaviors and the same mechanics and the same, then it's just that I get bored. I mean, people can do it, but it's not interesting to me. And so for me, it's experimentation, and it's really to get closer to what art really is in the case of crypto art. And so as an artist, the last thing you want is to market yourself and sell and all that stuff. You just want to do your art. And to say that artists who are putting videos every day are in any way are showing any commitment in the long term is so misleading, because I know so many amazing artists that they just don't want to do it, they can't do it, they don't care, and they're incredible. And then, one of the things that I actually made me start data is that I was a successful artist myself. I know how to market, I know how to negotiate, I know how to do all those things. But a lot of my friends didn't want to. And so I started seeing all this the mediocrity rising, and my friends who were amazing, always in the shadow. And so I think value actually comes when you can identify who is actually creating value with art. And so if you think about it that way, then style is really like repeating. I see a lot in crypto art. There is the same style repeated over. That's not a distinctive. That might be a distinctive style, but not necessarily value when it comes to what you're creating as an artist. So I think we have to start like breaking down all these things. We have such an amazing opportunity to do it and create new ways of doing these things, focusing on the nuances. And so as a collector then, because as some of you know, we published this paper, The Invisible Economy, based on basically one fact that is 50 years of well research, that it says that at the moment that you change intrinsic motivations, the love for doing art or the love to collect something because it's meaningful to you, at the moment that you change that for money, for the money rewards or for awards or for anything that is extrinsic, the intrinsic motivation diminish or disappear completely, which is it kills creativity to start with, right? So when you think about that, we've been really going deep into what that means. And so lately, I used to think like Zach and everyone else that, that probably there is investors in one side and collectors who just collect for love on the other one. And then most people are in between. But now I actually think that is two different things. You either collect for investment or you collect for meaning. When you collect for meaning, you keep it. When you collect for investment, you flip it. And so to put ourselves in the, some people think that I'm very pure because of the things that I say, but no. I mean, I started investing, with options, betting companies will go down. So it's not that, you just do these things and you expect to get money out of it and, invest in real estate and invested in companies. But that's a whole different thing. As an artist, I don't want anyone to see me as a corporation that should maximize their profits. That's not what I'm doing as an artist. I think it's actually, we have to really start changing the analogies that we're using. So if all you want is ROI, well, they're probably going to be artists who are going to be on board with it. Most artists won't. And so, or they do it because they have to. There's no other option. So it's about making options. So as a collector, I just want to share with you, how I think what are the intrinsic motivations of collectors. Let me know if you see my, do you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it now. Thank you, Beth.
Okay, so I go briefly with it, but I started collecting when I was a child. This is an album of stamps. My family, my grandparents started collecting stamps, and then he passed it on to my father, his sisters, and from all the children. So we had this collection, but it's only now that I realized, and then we went serious with it, like going into the philately, you said, stores and buying like new, like really thinking about it in terms of the value of these stamps. But when I think about it now, not only is something that I share with my father who died a long time ago and my family, but it's also can you move it, because I can't move it anymore. Serena, can you
No.
do the next?
No. What do you mean?
I can't move I can't move it for some reason.
You want to get back on screen there? Shall I remove your screen?
Yeah, if you want to remove it, let's try it again quickly.
Okay.
I think maybe you if you can control it. Okay.
No,
so
I won't be able to. Oh, but I can see that now. Okay.
Okay, so then I started collecting bills and going to the shops and collecting them, and then I started to go to travel a lot. So I started to go to every flea market and find gems, and that's I think what collectors do. It's like you go and in the flea market and you just go through a lot of junk and you find those gems that are meaningful for you, and then you have all this stuff and you have to organize them, right? So there is actually pleasure in organizing. It's well known that people who collect likes to organize, archive, categorize. And so I started buying all this like storage stuff, where like really cool storage stuff where I could organize all this stuff. And so you start looking at repetitions, right? Like I will buy these bottles when I was around the world. And then naturally, what you do is that you want to display them, right? So there is a pleasure in displaying all these things. Every little drawer here, you open and you will find bonds or all kind of things. So there was something about people coming to my studio and me being able to show them that it's almost like you open up your body, you're opening and you're allowing people to go to a very intimate place with you. So I organize a lot of stuff, and I'm trying to continue. But
you have a huge collection there. Wow, I'm so impressed. I didn't realize you were collecting so many different items.
I collect all
from
kind
around
of
the globe.
things. So for instance, the red ones are for the desert in Petra in Jordan. The green ones are from Armenia. There is rocks from Iceland, and so you have all these things. And you don't want to get rid of it. When I had to move my studio because I gave up all the offices, I remember Judy saying, "Why are you bringing sand? Why are you keeping sand?" It's like it's from the Sahara. I took it, and I'm someday going to do something with it, right? Like, so you start displaying. Okay, it's part of your life. It's part of your story, and then you actually do stuff with it. I do art with all this stuff, and so the art then has so many levels of meaning for me, because every single object that I use has meaning, has a story. It's all about me and my story. So when I left the offices, gave up the offices, I had one in New York and one in Caracas. I actually sold all the equipment, donated everything else, all the furniture, all the art materials, everything, and just kept the junk that it's only meaningful to me. And not only I couldn't sell it, I'm paying storage because I became a digital nomad to keep it and to keep it safe. So now I just do art with it. And so to think about it, the intrinsic motivations, and if you think about it, we can now stop this. So when you think about it, what could we do with NFTs? Well, some NFTs are going to be naturally just investment, right? If this shares on a company, that's all shares do. They're a financial instrument, so they're going to be just for investment. But when it's something like art, then there's so much opportunity to really develop ways for people to have joy, not just buying and selling, but have joy collecting, finding, organizing, categorizing, doing all these things and using them, which is an interesting thought when it comes to copyrights, right? So now we have the opportunity to actually use these NFTs in a way that is the right way. So that you are not, the value that you're creating with somebody else's work can be, that contribution can go back to the original artist, and the attribution will always be there. So we have an opportunity to do new things, and I just hope that we continue to really going forward with it.
Well, thank you so much, Vera. This has been such a, an interesting dive into collecting, I would say, in general, and what that mean for a human being going around and scouting something unique and looking into similar items. And I guess, what you highlighted here is that displaying digital art is still fairly difficult, I would say, and there isn't the one way of showing art. And I think one good example is what Zach has on the side there, which is a digital frame where you can exhibit some of your art. But then again, collecting NFTs, it means that you can collect multiple assets. And so it becomes yet quite difficult to find a place where you can invite your friends over and say, this is my collection, let me show you, as if you were going into the studio of an artist. And another interesting point was made by Zach when you mentioned about social media and how people are engaging on those virtual places, especially around those days with the lockdown. And, whether that makes you a more relevant artist or somebody that believes into art more and is committed, perhaps, versus somebody that maybe spends more time into a physical studio and maybe doesn't enjoy as much being sociable. But I want to now address questions from the audience because there's a good amount of questions. So I wish for us to give maybe some quick answers to all of those because I think they're quite interesting. So the first one comes from Nate Alex asking, Bart and Zach, what are your thoughts around the push for on-chain storage and experiments towards using other storage methods, including Artweave or SVGs directly on-chain, fad or future? Thoughts on that? Maybe Bart, do you want to start first and then we pass on the word to Zach?
Okay, so one of the things about a lot of these NFTs is that once you take away the hosting, the NFT becomes basically blank, just a bunch of metadata on chain, and the actual visual thing is gone. So Nate's question around on-chain storage, like with Arweave and SVG, is actually very relevant to making the token superior. So you're not just buying NFT that's linking to an IPFS storage somewhere else, but you're actually buying a token that will hypothetically, we are not sure yet, live forever. So that's more, how do you say, as a collector, that's more, it installs more confidence. So it's definitely the path forward. Whether we actually use RV or SVG, we are not sure yet. The market is still too fluid right now. We're still discovering what ways we can do it, but I do see most of us going that way.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's the future. I think we're nowhere near it now. None of these, not none, but most of these blockchains were not built for on-chain storage. They weren't even thinking about that when they built most of these things. So I think while it's the future, right now we do have, for the most part, settle for just the current paradigm until that next level is there. The other really cool thing, though, about because this also leads to authenticity. Well, if we know it's the on-chain storage and it's the original and blockchain can't be altered, great. What's really cool about what Dada is doing, and I'm also pretty active on there, I love it, is like I can't upload something to Dada. If I do the art on there, I've got to actually create it on my iPad and draw it. And so then it's connected to my account, so it's for me. So they've actually solved the authenticity piece in a very brilliant way. It's an art tool that now it's from them, and you can't it's from somebody else. So that's a really good thing that they've resolved. And actually, I would hope that other platforms mimic that, where they will have an art tool to authentic. Oh, well, you created this on Super Rare. You created this on Maker's Place, because they have the drawing tool and it's connected to your account. So I think that's another possible solution to authenticity. And but most places are not there yet.
Mm-hmm. Zach, do you have some thoughts on that? And I've got some more questions for you as well coming through.
Great. Yeah. So we're always looking at every new potential option that comes out. I agree, it would be amazing to be able to just store the image file directly on Ethereum. I think we will get there. Our dev team has looked very heavily into Arweave and SVG, and we believe that right now IPFS is the better option currently. We're definitely not saying it will always be the best option, but you know, right now where things are at, I don't think that, you know, bringing in a totally different blockchain is the solution. I mean, with Arweave, you know, you have to pay up front for the storage, and, you know, it's really, you know, they say it's, you know, forever, but at the end of the day, that's yet to be seen. And so moving an entire project that is working well over to something that is, you know, potentially just, you know, some really good marketing, you know, I think it's a big question, and I think that it needs to be taken seriously. And so, you know, we're always going to continue looking deeply into every new option that comes out, and always have the best option that we believe is at the current time. And so right now, I still believe that IPFS is by far the better
solution. Yeah, I think
these
blockchains, none of these blockchains come with a guarantee. So I like, for the ones that actually have terms and conditions, the public blockchains, like many of them say things like, well, I know one I read specifically, it says basically they're not responsible if it goes down. Nobody's responsible if it goes down. And, you know, you use it at your own risk. So all this stuff it's fun, exciting. It creates some new possibilities, but it's super experimental. Like there's if we're putting all the art on a blockchain, it's as good as the blockchain, and that might be awesome if it's, you know, super supported, but it might just go down and be lost. So it's only as good as the blockchain and the tech behind it.
Yeah, I would also say that it's like, you know, we've seen this happening in the real world as well with banks in the past, where you had your money saved in banks and then the day after they were gone. So, you know, it's not that it doesn't happen. It's less likely perhaps to happen because there's more legal infrastructure in place perhaps, but, you know, anything can happen, yeah. Digital or physical. Zach, next one is for you. So why so many artists get turned down by Super Rare? How is that compatible with your statement that you are trying to grow a global art market? Please explain what means if I love the artist then.
Yeah.
Are you okay answering this question?
Of course. Yeah, I'm happy to. You know, at the end of the day, you know, right now, I think that our goal is to grow a large scale and sustainable art market for digital creators. You know, I think that to get there, it you know, will require different things. You know, I have read a lot about, you know, Bay and Dada's invisible economy, and I think it's a super cool concept and idea. But at the end of the day, it's also, you know, it's patronage. It's not collecting. Like, you know, you're
no.
to buy an artwork, to ask a collector to buy an artwork that if they ever need to resell it for any reason, they only get 10% of the resale. I mean, I think that in my opinion, it's unlikely that a collectors will spend a lot of money on artworks that at the end of the day, they are basically forced to keep forever. You know, this is we're getting off topic. I could get back.
No. Yeah. But I just want to say that your statement is not really what it's the invisible economy is all about. It's not patronage, and it's not about anything that you say. If you actually read it, you'll see.
Okay, got it. So the reason that currently we are only accepting a very small number of the artists that are applying is because we think it's very important to grow the artist side in line with the demand side. If you look at crypto art right now, you know, at the end of the day, yes, it's growing, but there's really only a small number of very big collectors. And we've seen that, you know, flooding a marketplace with tons of artworks, you know, that all it does is it brings down the overall pricing and success of all of the artists. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, our goal is to continue being able to add many more artists. And I think that that's going to come as more collectors continue to join. You know, we have very big plans to, you know, continue having Super Rare, not only be a place for, great digital art and a great collecting experience, but I would eventually like to see Super Rare be able to be much more open and allow anyone to get on. That's definitely the end goal, but right now we're trying to basically build a market, and to do that, you need to give collectors the ability to make money, and that's just the facts. I mean, if collectors have no ability to make money, and they're really only buying to keep the art forever and for sentimental value, that's great, but the pricing will be down. I mean, I absolutely love all of your collection that you showed, Bay. Like, I think it's amazing that you've been collecting things for so long, but I also, I think that collecting art to me is a slightly different thing. And I agree that we should be able to use blockchain to make things better than the traditional art world, but also I agree that for this to really move forward and for this to really become a place where artists around the world are living full time off their digital art, people need to be able to have the ability to resell those artworks. Like, people aren't just gonna, basically donate money to artists and keep the artworks forever. I mean, it's just not realistic. So
I can answer to that because I understand where you're coming from, and I agree. Like, for us, we have such a huge amount of artworks. It's absurd if we just put everything out there for people to, right? Like, the market is so small, the amount of collectors is so small that it just doesn't make any sense. But I think the opportunity, though, is to think about it differently. So if since it's digital art, then we don't have to think about scarcity, and we don't have to think about investors or collectors only being interested in flipping artworks. That's not the only reason why people collect. So if we already, all of us, have collected work because of it's meaningful, and so that work may go in value in other ways. And so, for instance, if you think about Rarible and the Rari token, well, maybe collectors are not selling anything just by collecting. You're actually getting Raris that are making you money, right? So there's a whole thing about the speculation of the Rari, because it actually is a speculative instrument and not a governance tool. But if you actually make it valuable as a community tool, and if the value that people are creating with the community goes up, accrues value with the token, or is reflected in that token, then you're talking about a very different way of thinking. Like, all you have to do is claim the stuff that you love, and you are free to trade it also. You don't have to keep it forever. But if you're attached to it, you can, and you can still make money because the community is creating value. And so this is what blockchain does, different from everything else that we know, which are the markets. And so so it's not patronage, it's this value. And the value, I mean, I'm so against patronage and charities and donations as strongly as I am of free markets. So it doesn't have to be one or the other. It's not that free markets, then no, but communism. Nobody wants communism. I mean, that's we don't even have to talk about that. It's just that there are other ways. They may be, we're figuring out one way, but there may be 1,000 other ways. And so to start thinking in those terms, I think it's what is interesting.
Thank you so much, you both. We have another quick question for Zach. Do you see Super Rare ever moving into a direction of listing game-related NFTs? Interesting for the BGA, this one. Thoughts on that?
I do not. I think that Super Rare is going to continue to focus on art and really try and own art. I think that the NFT space is going to be a multi-billion-dollar industry very soon. There's going to be just an incredible amount of innovations that'll continue to happen in the NFT space. But we made the decision very early to focus on art, and it's gotten us to where we are now. And I think that it's where we want to continue to focus. And so I love that there's platforms like Mintbase and Rarible and OpenSea, where now they're opening it up to all types of different types of NFTs. I collect other types of NFTs. I collect land. I collect wearables. I collect all types of stuff. But for super rare, I think that what's really needed right now for collectors is an art marketplace that is focused on art, that gives collectors one place where they can view and trade their entire art collection, one place where artists' stats are aggregated across all of these platforms. I think this world we're in right now, where it's 5-10 different platforms and a new one popping up every week. I mean, a year from now, there's going to be 50 more platforms, and I think that at the end of the day, it's exciting to see everyone pivoting towards art now. It's great to see, many companies that were focused completely on something totally different are now digital art marketplaces. And I think I love to see that, because I love to see the space grow. But I think we're going to stay true to where we started out to create, and we're going to stay focused on art.
Makes sense. Thank you, Zach, for that. We have another quick question for Bart, and then I know we've reached the hour now, so thank you everybody for sticking around. We are going to answer some very short questions, and then we'll wrap up. So Bart, do you think it's harder to attach sentimental value to NFTs compared to like a Pokemon card that you open on a very special day or something? Thoughts on that?
So for me personally, I have a very short-term memory. I used to have a ton of Pokemon cards, but I don't even remember where they are or where I kept it.
I used to love those.
Oh, I had tons of them. I don't even remember where they are. I used to go behind on the street, and I used to have street friends who I met just because of Pokemon cards, and we used to trade. So that was a very good time. But I remember none of it because I just don't know where they are. I've been moving around a lot. So this is where I feel digital collectibles are a bit superior to physical collectibles. It's the fact that it's there wherever in the world you go. It's always there on address, as long as you keep the seed words and your private keys safe, and you have like multiple choices to keep it safe. You still have that, and you can go anywhere around the world, move around, and you still have that. That's why I feel digital collectibles are a bit superior, and I may attach more sentimental value to digital collectibles than physical ones.
I think there's a way to keep the sentimental value of that NFTs and enhance it. For example, if somebody draws something on Dada, and then there's a system where now it's gifted to me, and I'm the caretaker of that art, I'll be like, oh wow, I already like that artist. This is really cool. Now I'm entrusted with helping to ensure this art is well positioned and things like that, and I show it off in my collection. There's an honor in that, and so I think also Wax is doing a really good job of creating the experience of when you open an NFT, like a pack of NFTs. It's like as if you're actually opening a pack on old cards, and it's similar to the Disney app, the Disney Tops app, where you open a Disney card, and there's like a sound of the wrapper opening and stuff like that. So there's ways companies can create it. I even think Super Rare could incorporate, because I've collected on Super Rare and sold on Super Rare.
Top Shot's also pretty good for that.
There's a way where you buy the art, and then when you become the owner, there's a drape. There's a vision of a drape over it, and you click on it, and then the drape falls off of it. So there's ways you can do that, kind of enhance the sentimental approach.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. The time went so fast. There's still questions to be answered there. So I welcome everybody to continue the conversation across social media, because I think we've touched on so many interesting topics today. So thank you all for joining this panel. Before we all go, I would love for you to answer a very short question for me. So collecting NFTs for investment or sentiment value, where do you stand, Joe? Sentiment or investment?
More sentiment, but there may be some increased value over time, but no guarantees.
Great. Zach?
if I'm forced to pick between the two, I would definitely say investment.
Thank you. Bea?
100% sentiment. No question about it. When it comes to art, all the things I can invest.
Can you hear us? Can you hear me?
Sorry, come again.
Bart,
Okay.
would you invest for sentiment value or for investment?
Okay, so most markets are zero-sum games, but NFT markets, for me, it's a positive-sum game. Because even though one person is losing money, there's another person, that the person who's losing money is getting something that he values because it has sentiment. So I think it's balanced. That's why I love the NFT markets compared to all the other ones. So I think it's always about balance. The investment is where the liquidity comes in, and the sentimental value is where it becomes a positive-sum game. So I think it's always about the balance between both.
Wonderful. Well, you all gave fantastic answers, and I think we all learned so much today. So once again, thank you for being here today, and thank you to the GA for hosting this panel. Thank you, guys. I'll see you soon, and we'll stay in touch on social media. Take care. Thank you, everybody watching.
Bye, everyone.